Oh yeah, you're
allowed to curse.
Okay.
Let's get into it. 1, 2, 3. Just give some more. Have your hands. Some more. Just give some more.
Well, hello and welcome to My Whiskey Den, your favorite public access whiskey review show where craft whiskey is king. And we are a proud part of the Bar Cart Co-op with other great shows like Distillers Talk and Bourbon Turntable. Before I go a second further, because we know I have a short memory, Mike, what do we tell our fans right now?
Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell notification to find out when new episodes are coming out. If you're watching us live on Monday night, please interact with the nice people in the chat. If you're watching this after the fact, please leave comments down below so we can get your feedback.
And I want to thank everyone in the chat for coming in and being on time. And I really want to thank our friend Gabe from Balcones. He's a spirits manager. Thank you so very much for being with us this evening. We have had so much of your stuff and enjoyed all of it. Mike and I actually, I think, named the Maltzilla our craft malt whiskey of the year. And I still have a titch left. So I'm probably going to be finishing that off tonight.
Cool. Yeah.
But
I'm happy to be here. I just saw Renita said hello. Hey, Renita. Fun to see you. Yeah, this is going to be really fun. I'm excited to hear what y'all have to ask me. It's going to be great.
I already see people in the chat bringing up Froke, so that's going to happen at some point.
Yeah.
So no, actually, what we usually like to start the show when we have someone in the spirits industry on is kind of your background. Like, I know it sounds bad because I always bring it up this way. Was there a spirit or a beer or whiskey? Was there something that turned you on to spirits or alcoholic beverages in general, where it was like, okay, this is a path I kind of can go down, or kind of hit a trigger for you, like the one that kind of snapped is like, I'm really into this.
Yeah. That's a fun prompt. Man, Jared, our head distiller, has just he's got this all in a really crisp package. Talking about his first spirit, I think it was Ardbeg, the one that just kind of drew him in. For me, for malts, I'll fast forward and then rewind. For me, for malts, it was Talisker 57 North. Was just holy crap. I'd been playing in the stuff I could afford for a long time, like Glenfiddich and stuff like that. And I had a bottle of Teeling, small batch Teeling. So, I didn't know nothing, but then I had Talisker 57 North, and that was the first higher proof malt that I'd ever had. And it just blew my mind. That was really fun. I don't even know if you can get that anymore. I think it was I was living in the EU. I think it was an EU exclusive. But how I got into it was that I was, as everyone's story starts, I was attending a dry private Christian college where I wasn't allowed to drink. Not even when I was off campus, I signed this thing saying that I would not consume any alcohol, even if I was at my sister's wedding. I couldn't toast. It wasn't alcohol couldn't touch my lips. So naturally, I started homebrewing, and one thing led to another. I was doing I did a mead, like everyone does their first time. I did a mead, and then I was home brewing, and then I left that college. I was doing it all under the radar in the basement off campus, trying to obey the rules. I actually didn't drink it. I did obey the rules. I would brew it, wait till the semester was over, and then drink it when the semester was over. It's the healthy legalism. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, around a rule like that before.
Yeah, right.
I'm not on the team yet, so I can't be in trouble.
Right, exactly. But anyways, long story short, I graduated and I went to UK, University of Kentucky, where Ben's living right now in Lexington, and I studied geology there. And when I was there, I was a poor grad student, making, I think I was making $1,100 a month. It was a tiny graduate teaching assistantship stipend. And so all at the time, Four Roses, Buffalo Trace, Wild Turkey, there was like a half a dozen, Woodford Reserve, there were half a dozen distilleries, and most had a free tour that if you showed up and, went through the tour for 30 minutes, you get 2 ounces of free bourbon. And so my cohort and the people I lived with, a couple of guys that I lived with, we would do that like every weekend. We'd go to Frankfurt and we'd hit up those tours because we get free alcohol. And so that kind of started getting my wheels turning with just American whiskey and being really enamored with the craft of distillation and the art of distillation. And then after grad school, I moved overseas and I worked in oil and gas as a geochemist and as a geologist. And I kind of got a little distracted and, I drank sherry and wine and whatnot when I was over there. But then when I was coming back overseas, when I was coming back to the US and leaving the oil and gas industry at the downturn, I wanted to get into distilling. And so that I got to talking with Balcones and kind of one thing led to another. But yeah, kind of a circuitous path. I don't know how to pronounce that word, but yeah, it was a bit of a loop-de-loop.
With obviously just in your time overseas and with what you said you were drinking, how valuable do you think that experience was tasting the different wines and sherries while you were overseas?
I mean, I kind of kick myself now because I didn't really realize at the time how relevant all that information was going to be. I was just like having a good time. And then I moved here and people, and then it was late to realize that, oh yeah, that was like a super worthwhile experience. I should have been paying more attention. But yeah, it definitely helped my palate. When I really started getting into whiskey and collecting whiskey, I was over there. So I could for a long time, I could only get what was there. So, I'd be lucky to be able to taste a lot of the stuff that people could get stateside. And so I think that kind of tempered some of the things that I could explore within the whiskey scene. But, now when I do tasting notes or when we're doing product development, I have that to draw on, those obscure wines and obscure Spanish liqueurs and obscure spirit types. But anyways, yeah, it definitely was helpful. Definitely has informed what I'm doing and some of what Balcones has been doing.
I think that'd be good. I just thought it'd be a good way to pull from. Even if, like you said, you weren't paying attention at the point, it was still having the experience of being there doing that. I don't know, I just think it always lends itself in as you go later on in your career. It's just funny how things kind of pull back around, and oh, I didn't realize how useful that was going to be, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and that's the fun part about, a bit of an amalgamation and the recognition that, you can get a lot of cellar drift and you can get especially at Balcones, we feel that a lot, but you can get kind of siloed into your experience. And, I don't want to wade into weird territory, but even the idea of having someone in to the blending process or the distillation process or the creative process with a really different background, it's just you get this cross-pollination. And if it's all white guys in our 30s and 40s who have beards and who came from drinking craft beer, it's we only all know the same thing, and sometimes it can be really great to just someone comes in and you're just oh, you think that tastes like what the hell is that? And you really, it can be a really wonderful, eye-opening experience to have a different perspective. So our head distiller, Jared, grew up in Brazil, and he lived there till he was about college age. And so he has a lot of that too. He comes with he'll taste something and go, oh, it's like this. And we're like, what are you talking about? He's like, oh, it's like a Brazilian pizza. We're like, okay.
Right.
Cool. So, yeah.
So I have a question. I want to, I'm not stirring the pot here, but I got a question. How long have you been at Balcones?
Yeah, stir. I'm in my 6th year. So yeah, I was 5 years. December of last year was my 5th year anniversary. Okay.
So if they came up with actual legislation to define Texas whiskey, if I know it's a big if, because obviously things have to happen and heads have to come out of butts and stuff like that. But if that were to happen, what would you, and if they came up with what would you cheer that, oh, they did this to make this happen, and what would you mourn that they took away to make the legislation happen?
That's a good question. I mean, define Texas whiskey in our freedom-loving state. No way. No, I hear you. I mean, we've seen this happen with the American Single Malt Whiskey Commission, where people kind of, a lot of key stakeholders came together to try to like, okay, how should we define this? And it actually was surprising because a lot of things ended up falling into place really quickly. There wasn't a lot of infighting, and a lot of things just happened really naturally. It's like no one's going to come in and say like, if Garrison and TX and Balcones and Iron Root and Treaty Oak all sit down and we go, okay, what's Texas whiskey? We're not going to make it something that we don't already fit, And so already you kind of have a little bit of, not bias, because kind of healthy bias, but it's just this natural evolution that was included. So yeah, American Single Malt Whiskey they included, even though in the UK, it has to be on Scotch malt whiskey, Scotch single malt has to be done on a pot. In the US, you can do it on either type of still, any type of still. Right. So yeah, I mean, that's a hard one. I don't know exactly what we would do, but yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I could imagine people coming down a little too hard, not really understanding what the landscape actually is, and that a majority of the grains are not necessarily from Texas, and even some of the spirits. But I think the Texas Whiskey Association does a really good job of already having these guide rails. And like, cool, you're a certified Texas whiskey. You're doing this. Right. And I know they have proposed, sorry, I'm not answering your question perfectly. I know they have proposed having different classifications. So just like, yeah, you got a certified Texas whiskey, and then you've got like a Lone Star whiskey, and that's like Texas grain. And it's like this other level, But yeah, I think that would be the thing that I think would be a real shame if they did like, no Texas grain, or they did only Texas grain and not outside grains, or they did, I mean, I'd love it if they did something super squirrely, like only Texas oak. Right. I mean, like just super Texas all the way. It's like only Texas copper in the stills, only Texas oak. And then we're all stuck using like clay stills and stuff. That'd be dope.
I don't think anybody would, if that happened, nobody would be surprised. But what do you think is a defining trait of Texas whiskey?
I mean, really, it's the climate. So yeah, it would have to be matured here. That'd be full. You couldn't make it here and then transport it somewhere else to it. And I could, if you didn't have that in place, I could see people doing that. If Texas whiskey gains enough momentum, they're like, okay, we're going to make it here. We're going to take it to Montana, where the evaporation rate is 2.5% a year, and then we're going to bring it back here and call it Texas whiskey. So I think the climate has so much to do with it. I would say if everyone was doing open fermentations and allowing, local microbial activity to kind of affect the flavor, I would say fermentation as well. But a lot of people are doing, clean, sweet fermentations. So
I think
the climate, the evaporation rate has a lot to do with it, and the interaction between the spirit and the oak has a lot to do with it. I'd say is like the huge fingerprint of Texas whiskey.
I was gonna say, like, just the aging of it there, just the way the barrels and the heat and everything takes it. I was gonna say, what you get in like 2 years with the True Blue, I mean, just coloration.
Yeah.
We're looking at something from far north or a couple other places that might be like 6 or 7 years, and it's not even close. I mean, there's I don't know. Sorry, Mike, I didn't mean to cut it on that, but I was going to say that's just
you're fine.
Ran through my head. Sorry.
Yeah, that is a whole masterclass of Texas maturation, and the truth and the smoke screen, I think is super fascinating and something worth exploring. Someone asked, does anyone make Texas oak barrels? And I believe the answer is no, though Balcones does have Texas oak barrels. We had enough wood to make 30 barrels, and we yard aged it on the roof of our distillery, and then we gave it to our cooper, and the oak just wasn't right. And it was so brittle, and it wasn't the similar Quercus alba white oak structure. It was iron oak, so it was live oak. That we sent them 30 barrels worth of staves, and they could only make 3. And so we have 3 Texas live oak barrels, and they don't taste great. They taste like chestnut butter. You know, they taste like it's like the most tannic black. Like you can't even. Yeah, even if you had, if you just put it in a vial, like if you put it in a Glencairn, you couldn't even see through it. It's like so tannic. All that to say, yeah, that is, you're holding a bottle of True Blue 100. I think a super interesting thing about the Texas climate and the persona of Texas whiskey and Texas whiskey makers is how Texas whiskey makers have kind of played into this over oaked flavor as like, this is Texas whiskey. And even some whiskeys that we plan about talking today, Mirador, like, this is Texas whiskey. You know, this is 3 years in the right barrel. Right. And you get this low impact, fruity, grainy, esoteric, very bright, vibrant spirit. And then, yes, if you like do, you know, if you do the brimstone, you know,
yes, we do.
Right.
You know, yeah, then you get, and you froke, then you can design the treatment to kind of like tip its hat to the climate. But yeah, a lot of that is a little, there's a huge dominance of toasted oak, even in our own portfolio and in a lot of other craft distilleries. But I think in Texas as well, it's because you get this high impact early. And if your evaporation rate is so high that you're losing money every year, that you're just sitting on your spirit, then you need to uptake a lot of character and a lot of wood sugar quickly. And so I think some of the Texas, like, wow, look how much it did with the barrel is like, well, yeah, like it's a different barrel than Kentucky. It's a totally different ball game. You know, it's apples and oranges. It's not even apples and oranges. It's like kumquats and pineapples. You know, it's like it's totally different. So.
Very cool. I'm curious, you guys, you know, we can get into your lineup a little bit. I'm pretty familiar with it. I mean, for me personally, Texas whiskey has been my favorite category for a long while now. I think a lot, the guys here is kind of, I don't know, I won't speak for them and say it's their favorite, but we've all been pretty passionate about it. Curious if you guys, and I know you're running pot stills, if y'all are planning to get into anything like any kind of gin production or something along those lines at some point, especially playing with the botanicals that are available there in Texas.
Yeah, that's a good question. We do a white rum that is available through our tasting room. Okay. And our bartenders, really all that stuff is kept in house. We do have like a house like bar Geneva style gin that we make with our high proof malt new make. Right. And our bartenders make house made curacao. They'll do they make like a pastis with our high proof rye new make, and they'll do like, you know, a pastis kind of rinse on a Sazerac. Right. And so, yeah, they do a lot of that in house, but as of yet, we haven't talked about taking anything out. Anytime with like the sales and business development people, we go like, yeah, let's take a white rum or white spirit to market. They go like, no. Like there's just something about brown spirits that they don't want to kind of dilute the Balcones messaging and story with something like that. But I mean, I love white rum. It's one of my favorite things that we make is our white rum.
That's I'm familiar with Real Spirits and what they're doing down there, and they have their totem product, which is like Pashuga, and it's freaking fantastic.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I know Davin's a great guy, and yeah, they did really cool. That was a really cool release. That was rad. Yeah. We've talked about doing something like that, doing maybe not exactly the same because our stills are so big and would be such a mess to clean up. And we've been very resistant to putting botanicals in the still. But yeah, we have talked about that, about doing something where maybe we do like, I don't know, it'd be dumb. I don't want to disclose everything, but yeah, maybe we like steep something in, a brisket in spirit or something, but we'll get around to it.
Yeah. Cause I mean, you don't necessarily have to run it through a gin basket or something like that, or in the still. There's different processes. But I'm curious too. I'm always blown away with the amazing different finishes and releases and what all you guys are doing. Like one of my all-time favorite that I've had from you guys was the Juntos.
Sure. Yeah.
I'd love to hear, what is your creative process there, Becca? How are you guys coming up and developing the ideas for what you're doing?
And you have a
Man.
multitude of them. Like, it's so wide.
Yeah,
I think you
Man.
guys have one of the biggest base lineups if we're talking like craft whiskey, and
Yeah.
your extra releases are insane. I mean, you were
Yeah.
putting out a lot of different stuff. So I think just building on that, what Ben was saying is like you have a really wide portfolio when you're trying to plan these things.
Sure. Yeah. That's a great, Ben, that's a great question. What is our creative process? And I appreciate y'all being so flattering about our special release range and all the releases that we've done. We I mean, I wish they never, this is why they don't let me out. This is why you guys don't see me much. Cause I'm just like, I have no filter. I don't get to do the branding and marketing training. I'm just like, I like live in the warehouse and then they let me out sometimes. But yeah, I mean, our process is like, it feels funny because it's so natural to us. You know, it's not like we got a big whiteboard and everyone's slapping stickies on it and just trying to see what's going to stick and, who's going to nix what. It's really, it feels so natural and it feels so flavor driven and like, it doesn't even feel like innovation. I think kind of sometimes we even get talked about this way. Oh, like Balcones, we won Brand Innovator of the Year a couple of years in a row, a few years ago. Right. And to us, it's just like, that was just so natural to do that. We had Froke, which is this dark, tannic, rich, velvety, creamy, ridiculous single malt.
Yes.
And then we were like, kind of like, what about pepper? What about black pepper and agave, and succulent flavors? Like that would be really interesting. And so we just did it, and we didn't even do it in large scale. And I think that's another bit of like a little bit of Balcones smokescreen is like, that Juntos release was like 5 or 6 barrels, but because it existed out of market, it looks like this big commitment that we did, and it's like, wow, they did this big release. And it's like, well, no, those were the barrels that we did that we treated that way. And then the main Broke release was, 9 or 12 barrels or something. But yeah, that one was really cool. That was, a lot of like with the Texas Live Oak barrels, a lot of stuff that we do behind the scenes, we go, like we're not, that's not going to make its way out.
Right.
But every once in a while we have these combinations that really work. And now we kind of see ourselves, we're a little trying to move away from finishing and moving away from, at least being the core, like, oh, what is this? Oh, it's a finished malt, or it's a finished whatever. And we're not necessarily moving away from finishing. We're trying to move away from domestic finishing and just trying to explore things that are a little closer to home. So yeah, tequila totally makes sense for us. Mezcal, we just laid down a ton of blue corn into mezcal casks.
Oh my God.
And put some peat and we put some peat into tequila casks and peat into mezcal casks. Cause we're like, okay, there's all this smoke and all these phenols. Let's just layer them. So yeah, a lot of it is just like flavors. And Jared is a driving force of a lot of that, bringing those ideas and that innovation. And then some stuff is done. Like we just took like 2 tons of grape pomace from a local vineyard and we just like threw it in the mash tun with the barley. Right. We're like, I mean, it's free pumice. They were going to compost it. What if we did this, and so some of it is so harebrained and so kind of like connected back to our Maverick mentality. Like if a distillery opened today and they were like, and they told their investors, yeah, we're going to make a corn whiskey. That's what we're going to do. We're going to roll the dice and put all the money on corn whiskey, which is what we did with Brimstone and Baby Blue, back in the early days. And so, yeah, a lot of it is just like defying expectations, not letting ourselves be constrained by the market, looking at the market as a resource of information, but it's not a blueprint. And we don't treat it that way.
No, that's something I really appreciate and value with you guys is that willingness to kind of think outside the box, so to speak, and experiment and explore and present things that are just that turn out to be freaking amazing. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of misses when you're like that, but it's not like you're stuck on here's our 3 mash bills and this is what we do. Yeah, there's a willingness to be creative, and that's something I really admire with what you guys
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thanks,
I think you made a comment that touched on a question that I was going to ask. If they've ever come up, it's like, all right, we've got this whiskey, and people are excited about it, but you get it, and you're just like, nope.
Oh, like one of ours?
Or you mean in the creative process?
If they're going, they were like, I want to try this out. Has there been one that you're just like, nah, not for me?
Oh, like something that we've released.
Yeah. or even trying out. I'm just curious.
I mean, killed behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've laid 50 to 100 barrels down to something and then gone, man, not like it's bad, but just like we don't have any interest in it, and we've sold it off. I won't say what, but we've had those scenarios. Yeah, the one, I mean, something that we've done that maybe I had a little bit of that reaction to is maybe just like the first iteration of Texas Bach was really cool. And it had a great reason to exist, and it was a cool collaboration, but I just felt it was so much better at 3 years when we released it again. And so sometimes that happens where we go, oh, we got to do this release. And there's this misconception that like 2 years in Texas is like 18 years somewhere else, and then we kind of can get ahead of ourselves a little bit and go, well, we need to release this because we laid it down. And so, yeah, sometimes that happens, but yeah, honestly, for the most part, like I have a love-hate relationship with Brimstone. It was the first Balcones whiskey I ever tried, and I fell in love with it. And then I came to Balcones and I had to make it, and I was like, I hate this. Like, it permeates, especially when you're actually I can't, we all sign a non-disclosure agreement saying we can't tell you how we do it, but I can paint a picture, and it just gets in your nose, and it gets in your skin, and it gets under your fingernails. And then when you're blending it, you just can't smell anything. And it's like, it's all you can taste. It's all you can smell. Like, it's super hard to differentiate. You're looking at 4 variations, and the smoke just like destroys your palate. And so I have a love-hate relationship with Brimstone, and sometimes I wish that one didn't exist. But yeah, I think also it's so iconic, and it does so well for us in new markets, especially overseas, where people go, people in the UK and Australia and the EU, they love Brimstone because it's like, to them, it's like, oh, this is what Texans are drinking. This is Texas whiskey. It tastes like a campfire. It tastes like you're snorting barbecue sauce, And so, anyways, yeah. So yeah, that's a roundabout way of being polite and not shitting on any one of our releases too hard.
But that's one of the endearing things about Brimstone, and I love it, is that it gets into your pores. And, and like so the next day, you're like mid-morning the next day, and you're like, son of a bitch.
Yeah, it's like worse than a cigar. I mean, yeah.
No, it is. It's very intense. Yeah, it's super intense. Y'all are drinking Grand Cru, or did you move on?
I'm on Grand Cru right now, but I'm about ready to finish on that one. I started with Lineage and moved to Grand Cru.
Okay, great.
2020 Mirador.
Ooh,
that's next.
And that one is amazing.
That 2021 is great. I'm gonna pour myself some 2021. I'm happy to. I haven't been paying super close attention to the chat, but I don't want to disregard anyone.
You're doing all good. Some reference to someone lifting a car off a cat after having.
I saw that. We're just
Balcones gives you wings.
Right. Yeah.
That's the thing about, like, from all the different Texas distilleries, Balcones is I don't want to say the most creative, but I think there's definitely more creativity with the flavors on it. And I'm sure with as many whiskeys as you have out, there's got to be at least twice that many that everyone is like, no, we this idea is not going to happen or something, just by averages. I mean, you can't possibly have everything that you create come out, but there's just something with Balcones where it's kind of like and I don't want to call it a Texas thing, but it might be a Texas thing where just like, we don't care. we're going to put this out. And Balcones is rough. It's like you're going to love this or you're going to hate it, and we don't care either way. So I really, really love that about just the Balcones is like a huge flavor journey.
Yeah, no, and that's honestly our idea. That's a part of why we do what we do. That's our ethos is kind of like that. We want to bring dynamic flavor experiences to people and kind of change their conception a little bit. And it can be challenging. Like, we want to make compelling whiskeys for people, and compelling can be challenging and mildly unpalatable sometimes, but to kind of push it a little bit. I mean, I love the idea that there was a perception of like what could exist in the world of whiskey. And then like Froke came out, for example. There was a consensus of like, what's the most over oaked whiskey? What's too much? And it was like Booker's or something. And then like Froke came out and we were like, nah. You know, and it's just fun. You know, I mean, I love that. And that's why partially why I came to work for Balcones is that taking stuff that's behind the scenes and kind of like bringing it out to people and just saying like, this is what it is. The Dawn and Dust release that we did last year, I felt was that way too. We did the double finish, not a double finish, but we did a first finish with Texas Madeira cask and then a second finish of the same cask. And we were going to release them together and just be Texas Madeira finished. And then we were like, no, like, let's release these both side by side, Dawn and Dusk.
Right.
One's really light and it's freeze-dried strawberries, and one's like stewed plums and varnish. And like, let's show people what it's like to be a distiller and to try different finishes, you know, and different varieties of finishes. Anyways, so I appreciate you saying that, Mike. It means a lot.
Oh no, there's so many more. It's like I've tried. I mean, I'm in Kansas City, and I have tried every time I've been down and around Texas. It's like you had someone say, "Oh, Froke is on the shelves." No, it's not, because you tried that stuff disappears. That's on my dream list to get about 5 bottles of that stuff.
Right. Yeah, and that's I mean, whatever y'all want to talk about, I'm game to talk about, but I could unpack Froke because I am, you know, it's my job to kind of make releases and to make sure that we can keep making the whiskeys that exist on the shelf. But I don't think Froke is coming around again. So if you've got a bottle,
damn it,
that was going to be my next question. Being as you can see the future.
Yeah. So yeah, Froke was. We had a great opportunity to work with an amazing cooperage out of France, and we did a custom order of small format barrels from them, like 5-gallon French oak barrels. And that was back when we were using predominantly 5-gallon barrels. This is like, you know, 2013, 2014 era. And Froke was just, you put Texas single malt into a 5-gallon barrel and you get 25% evaporation every year in those 20-liter barrels. Then all those tannins concentrate. And we actually did a whole round of experimentation to scale up those same toast and char profiles on those 5 gallons into 225s and then later into 700 liters too.
Nice.
And we could not get it right. No matter what we did, it was all about the evaporation rate and that small format. And we could not get the same density and tannin content and profile as with those smaller barrels. And so Froke was kind of like, it was a season and we did it. And maybe, you know, it may come out again, but it'll be softer. It won't be like the other one. It won't be as velvety and slick and creamy as those tannins. It might be like nutty and toasty and refilly and kind of mirador-y. But just in those larger format barrels with more spirit and less evaporative loss, it just doesn't happen for us. So sorry. I hate to burst everyone's bubble, but it needs and we bought so many, we kind of freaked out and we bought French oak from like 4 different producers. And we put it in a ton of different types of French oak casks and different French oak species, Quercus petraea, Quercus robur, different toast and char profiles from different cooperages in different parts of France. And it just didn't happen again. So sorry, y'all. We tried.
Being as you're looking over all these different, are you a spreadsheet nerd or are you anti that? Because I figure having to keep track of all these different barrels and grain varietals and what's going into what and how it comes out. Some people are super spreadsheet nerds and other people are just you kind of feel it out. Which way are you in this system?
Well, I mean, we were definitely at a feel it out phase when I maybe came on board, but it quickly, it slips through our fingers at the scale that we're at now. Yeah. And so I came from a background in like software in the oil and gas industry for like visualization of massive amounts of data. And so one of the, advantages I had was looking at all the data we had and recognizing that we needed to be using data visualization software and databases. And so that's a part of what we do is we visualize our data. So we have a SQL database and then we're visualizing it in graphs. So all of our warehouse is in graphs. So I'm moving between bar charts and color coded stuff. So, my used bourbons look one way and my virgin oak barrels look another way. And so I can pull up a mash bill and I can see age, oak type, how many I have of each one at like the snap of my fingers. So yeah, it takes, what used to be a full day of pouring through an Excel spreadsheet to say, okay, how many barrels of X do we have that can make X in this quarter? Now It's like that has to take 20 seconds or else we're wasting a lot of time. So.
No, I just mean the in-depth look at it, and that's exactly what I mean. So I'm glad I knew you were doing something like it, because there's no way to keep track of everything you're doing without that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, unfortunately, yeah, like with the increasing scale, it gets harder and harder to keep track of individual casks. So the data management helps a lot, and we actually just staffed up our blending team too. So now it used to just be me and Jared and Johnson who supervises and manages our distillers. And now there's like 5 to 6 of us because there's just so many samples. There's so many samples to go through. It's a hard job. Someone's got to do it. That's why we happily borrowed / poached Emma from the Whiskey Tribe and from Crowded Barrel, because we needed some serious help.
Sure. I figured she was going to be going someplace. I was going to say, being in that situation, there was meeting too many people and too much information flowing through you to learn to not step outside that boundary at some point. So I'm glad you guys
great
did.
talent. So you guys nabbed a good one.
Yeah, no, she's awesome.
Yeah.
So is there a Balcones that you want to make?
Ooh, like a release. Ooh.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, I feel bad. I'm making the ones that I want to make, I mean, I'm like not saying the ones that exist out there, but yeah, like now me and the creative team and Jared, we're in a position where we go, what do we want to do? And you go, okay, that's what we're going to do. So yeah, I mean, one thing that we are exploring a lot and we will continue to explore, we've done a lot of learning at the 200 liter and 225 liter scale. Mm-hmm. And we've learned a lot about oak maturation in Texas that way, in the Texas climate. And kind of the next level is moving up in size and scale. So going to 500 liter and 700 liter casks. So that's kind of a little bit of a next frontier for us, is increasing the size of the barrels to reduce evaporative loss and to balance oak impact across a larger volume of spirit. And so, yeah, we're going to be doing that. And we have some whiskeys in the pipeline that have been in 500 and up liter casks. And so, yeah, that's something that we're exploring and that I'm pretty excited about. A lot of what we're doing, Mike, is kind of going back to our roots a little bit. And I don't know, I kind of feel like it feels like the explorers who like set out from the continent, and did a ton of crazy stuff in far off lands and, and on islands and whatnot, and like on the high seas, and developed this reputation. And then we like, unbeknownst to ourselves, kind of circled back, and then we like set foot back on the continent we came from. We're like back in England, and we're like putting our flag down, like, aha. And so like in our rye and bourbon exploration, we were kind of like thinking, man, like maybe we should try yellow corn. Like that'd be cool. Yeah, we're kind of scratching our heads, like, yeah, we're scratching our heads like, man, it'd be great if our bourbon could taste a little bit more like what people think bourbon tastes like, because we like that too. We like when I want a bourbon, I go and I drink a bourbon. Right. I go and drink like a Kentucky bourbon, and we want something a little more classic. And so, yeah, we're like, okay, well, we should try sour mashing, and we should try yellow corn. Same thing with rye. We're like, I think our rye is known for its big, bold chocolatiness, and how different it is from most ryes. And that was great initially. But now we're reusing our rye casks and going like, yeah, like Baby Blue doesn't need chocolate, and malt, we don't really want our malt to have this like chocolate rye note to it, because that's like a Westland, Westward, Pacific Northwest, like specialty malt flavor that we don't really go in for. And aren't really interested in exploring. So we kind of find ourselves, sorry, this is a long-winded way of saying
Hey,
No, you're
large
good.
formats, different kind of more classic mash bills. And then we'll continue to push, to just push Texas whiskey through time. We really see it as our burden to be participants in, the first, and also participants in this early stage of what Texas whiskey could be. And no one at Balcones feels like any of our whiskeys are done. There's no sense that we're like, oh, cool, yeah, lineage, knocked it out of the fucking park. That's it. We're really of the mind like, okay, yeah, that's a 3-year-old lineage. Now, what about a 5-year-old lineage in a larger cask with lower evaporative loss? And what if we distilled it a little differently? Because now that it's not going to be released at 3 years, we have more time for all those. We could get a slightly wider cut and put some funkier stuff in there and push it through time like they do in Scotland. Like what is it, what is it going to mean to be a Texas single malt? Not just now, we're not done. What is it going to mean in 15, 20, 30 years? And how do we lay the groundwork for that? So that's kind of the burden that we see ourselves doing. So that's kind of the downside of the innovation where we're at now. I don't feel like there's a super sexy, like there's going to be this really cool whiskey that we're going to release and it's going to be finished in Japanese oak, Sotol casks or something like that. Really what it's going to be is this slow, methodical, like, how do we get it older? Cool. How do we get it older and maintain flavor? How do we get it older and improve flavor? It's this real methodical, thoughtful shepherding of what Texas single malt and what Texas whiskey needs and wants to be. Sorry. So unfortunately, fortunately,
you don't
it's
want
not
to delve
sexy.
too deep into it either with what you're doing. Like you said, you don't want, with how many barrels you're putting down, it's almost like a little bit of a testing ground to see where things come out. I don't know how many barrels you guys have, but like you don't want to put too much of an investment when you're trying to figure out where it's going to land and maybe like the entry proof and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, and that's a funny balance that we're trying to strike now too. Where we've done collaborations and we've laid whiskey down, and now we're releasing these whiskeys. But 3 or 4 years ago, our idea of what a release should be was way smaller. We go 3-4 years ago, if it was 10 barrels, I'd be like, well, that's a lot for a special release. And now we're going like, holy crap, like these special releases to hit every market and to get everyone who wants one, a bottle in their hand or a couple bottles on their liquor store shelf. These releases need to be, 40, 50, 80, 90, 100 barrels in size. And that's when you're just throwing shit at a wall, that's a totally different, ball game and completely different scale. And so, we're having to do a lot more lab work and do a lot more just pH analysis and sulfur analysis and yeast available nitrogen analysis and spectrophotometry, and we're having to kind of make sure, instead of just throwing shit at the wall and every piece of shit goes into 2 or 3 barrels and we don't have to release them because it's so small. And we could scrap it. It doesn't really matter. It's such a small investment. Now we're having to go, okay, we have 12 ideas. What's the best idea? Let's test it in the lab. Let's test it on a sensory panel and then commit to the best one, which is it's a much more mature way of doing things, but it's a little scary because it's not our normal mentality or persona. Anyways, wow, y'all are getting, it's been too long since I've done this. I'm giving you I've pulled back all the curtains, man, like shedding everything.
Let's go back. Let's go back a little more, because going back into the process of what you're talking about, kind of going back to methods. I've never heard this discussed with Balcones before, which is interesting considering how much you guys do with single malt. Are you lautering the mash, or are you distilling on the grain with your single malts?
Yeah, we've always lautered from the beginning. Yeah, we've had a mash tun.
Right.
We inherited the Speyburn. We inherited a mash tun from Speyburn Distillery in Speyside, and that's the one in our new facility. And then in the old facility, we used it was a really small one, and it was kind of slapped together.
Right.
But yeah, we've always lautered. Okay. And then on the American side, on corn, rye, and bourbons, we have a cereal cooker. So we have a hammer mill and a cereal cooker, and we do grain on fermentation and grain on wash distillations, and we have an external reboiler to keep the heated grain outside of the pot, so we don't scorch in the pot.
Right. Okay. So, which then brings, have you guys looked at distilling or fermenting and distilling on the grain with the single malt? Kind of stepping outside the traditional Scottish boundaries of that a little bit.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, just for us, you know, I mean, really, I have had a couple single malts that have been made grain on fermentations and grain on distillations, and I wouldn't say that they were like they weren't flawed in the way that I thought they were going to be. You know, I was expecting, oh, there's going to be this like bitter tannin texture, and it's going to be problematic in some way. It's grainier than probably we would like. But yeah, I don't know. Some of the ways that's a good question. I mean, we have no plans to.
Curious. Yeah.
We did do an Irish whiskey though. And we were fortunate to do an Irish style whiskey. We did Texas malted barley and Texas unmalted barley, and we did the unmalted portion in the cereal cooker.
Okay.
The raw stuff and through the hammer mill in the cereal cooker, and we did a cook, and then we did the malted barley through the mash tun, and we combined them. And so that's kind of some of how we've done the more nimble stuff. And we've used our facility's capability to do both American style stuff and single malt in that way. And we've also done that with the bourbon. We did a high malt bourbon, and we did 45% of the bill was malted barley. We ran that through the mash tun, and then we fed that onto the corn cook. So yeah, we've done some innovation there and like used our facility to, you know, explore that advantage. But no plans to do the other way, but maybe not. I mean, you never know. Just to scratch the itch, we might.
Right.
I'm just going to spin back to one or two questions in the chat that happened out there. Mark was saying, any thoughts on adding different wood staves to the larger casks you're talking about to kind of play with the flavors?
That's a good question. Yeah, I mean, I just visited Maker's Mark and was like, whoa, like, wow. It was a lot and really cool. I met their master innovator, Jane, and their master distiller, and had a really cool afternoon with them. But they were, no plans necessarily on that scale, though what they did is crazy ambitious and really incredible. Really, more of what we have talked about exploring is right now we laid down a lot, especially for our new oak profiles, like rye and bourbon, and then Texas One single malt. We laid down into a mix of American oak, European oak, and some French oak. And we not necessarily want to get away from French oak and European oak, but just for not all products, don't necessarily need that high of impact of a cask. And have found ourselves selling off a lot of our malts, our malts and European oak as single barrels. And so one thing that we have talked about doing and have explored with our cooper is just doing American oak bodies and European oak heads. Or they'll do alternating staves where you can do like, half European oak, half American oak, to kind of balance the profile a little bit. So you get the spice and fruit from the European oak and tannin, and then you get sugar and body from the American oak. So we have talked about that. And yeah, unfortunately when we talked to our cooperage about, hey, we want to try we don't want to do Texas live oak. We want to try Texas post oak or Texas whatever oak. They've been like, no way. Like they're totally traumatized and scarred from our Texas live oak experiment. And so that's what they've suggested. They said, yeah, you give us some staves, we'll toast them and char them for you, and you can put them in the cask. And we're like, well, that's not what we were talking about. But we have talked about that as well. It's like, oh, well, what if we had an American oak body, but Texas oak heads, something like that. So
you should save the Texas oak barrels for when people come for single barrel picks. Say, well, here's the ones you have to choose from, and then just see what they say.
Totally. Yeah.
So I have a question. Go back and if you can't answer it, I understand.
We understand.
So are you, when you're talking about trying to get some of the age on some of the spirits, is there a potential that maybe you're targeting like a 5-year brimstone?
Man, people love brimstone. I mean, I can't talk about the brimstone process.
No, it's no, and that's why I was afraid, because my other part of the question, which just might play into it, is if you were going to do that, would you smoke and then just let it age, or would you and just see what happens over time with it, or is it like something?
I don't think so. I'm not forbidden. I can't talk about the process, but I can kind of get around.
Theoretically,
you can say
hypothetically,
you can say
hypothetically.
There's ways around the oaths, okay? Just like in my dry private Christian college days, I was brewing in a basement off campus, and I didn't drink it until the term was done. So there's a way. So we used to do the brimstone process, and then we would age. And so now we age first, and then we do the brimstone process. Okay. But we are exploring the idea of going back to aging some whiskey after it's been through the brimstone process to do brimstone special releases or a brimstone single barrel or something of that nature. So yeah, we actually do. I mean, I feel bad. We actually do have some 5-year brimstone in barrel. Okay. I don't know if some of y'all from our 10-year anniversary year, we released a single barrel called Brim PX. Mm-hmm. It was brimstone finish in PX. And we laid some more down. And I actually believe, I'm pretty sure Lost Lantern snapped one of those up. A Brim PX cask. So yeah, we do have some of those. But yeah, no plans right now for big release. But honestly, it's funny given the production communities at Balcones, the production community's relationship to brimstone and how difficult it is. It's ironic that more than anything else in market, we get asked about Froke, the thing we can't make more of, and brimstone, the thing that we don't really want to make more of. But
you ever go back and just kick yourself? Like, why the hell did we even make this to start with?
No, I mean, I think it's great. Honestly, I think it's great. And sometimes, like, because of how tricky it is and how hard it is to keep up with demand, people, elements of the distillery will go like, what if we just stop doing this? It's like, it's not. And like every time that happens, it's like, no, but like this is people's idea of what we're doing and what we're doing well, and people get really excited about this, and it's kind of a quintessential Balcones whiskey. And so I think I want it to exist for as long as the community deems it so. And yeah, it's one of the few things that we're a bigger distillery now. We're not selling. There was a time in 2015, 2014. And 2016, everything we made, we would sell. Every single case we produced would get sold out immediately. It was already spoken for. We didn't have to do any marketing. We didn't need a sales force. But now, obviously, that's not the case. But brimstone, we cannot keep up with demand. Like, we are constantly behind. Like, we are constantly, like, literally 1,000 cases of demand behind at any given moment. Of just like we cannot keep up with the demand for it. So,
and so that's why
at the same time you're like, no, I don't want to spend any more time making it right now. Like I don't want to spend 3 more weeks making it this year. No, I don't.
Yeah,
right.
That's why I was curious if it was just a thing with brimstone with Balcones where you're like, okay, do we want to refine this? Do we want to make this more civilized or grown up, or do we want to keep it this way because I mean, you either like it or you don't like it. I mean, there's
we had and one of the big production elements of why we actually got away from putting brimstone in barrel and aging it and having a lot of stock and potentially leading up to brimstone special release or brimstone single barrel or whatever was just because we're in because we make single malt and corn whiskey, we're in the habit of reusing our casks. And there was a time when we weren't doing as good a job of keeping track of what went into what, and they were just filling in whatever. And then we'd pull a bunch of malt out, and there'd be like 12 brimstone malt barrels in there. And we're like, oh my God. And so part of the reason why we got away from that was, I mean, one, it was the accidental stuff, and that happened a few times, and then we cleaned up our system. But the big thing is just that we can't use the cask again. We use it once for brimstone, and then either we use it for brimstone again, or it's kind of it. We're not going to get any other uses out of it for any other spirit, and that's just a shame because it's just a dead cask to us, and it's a waste of money and waste of resources.
Yeah.
Right.
Boo hoo, boo hoo Balcones.
Hey, the way getting casks in the future might be, it's all about using what you got. So
yeah, no, they're super expensive right now.
Of a vodka in a used brimstone barrel might be kind of fun.
Be cool. Yeah, you wanna use brimstone barrel? I've got a lot of them. How much vodka you got, Mike?
Not enough. But Pat and I were at a show a couple of years ago, and what was that crazy vodka that they had? There was a pepper vodka, and then what was the other one that they're like, oh yeah, it was damn it.
There was a lemon one that was badass.
No. It was the one that they're like, this is made for Bloody Marys.
Pickle juice? No, horseradish.
Horseradish vodka. Yeah.
It was. I can't say I got behind that one myself.
No, but like there's a reason for that, and the people that were all about it, they're like Bloody Marys, and they're.
Oh yeah, that was the statement.
Sure.
I could see you could make something crazy, with that. Maybe a bar would buy it or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Now you're getting excited.
Is
I don't even drink vodka, but hey.
Yeah, is John Gunsel? Is he with Crowd of Barrel?
Yep.
He is.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's the guy behind the guy.
Okay. Yeah.
Mother Pepper. There was.
Yeah, he's saying he's being squirrely. He's saying send more Irish faints because we did one distillation of Irish whiskey, and then we produced faints from that spirit distillation, but we didn't have enough to fill up the still again, so it went somewhere else. I don't know where it could have gone.
Might find out
someplace
today.
that needed it,
Yeah, someplace that needed it. Yeah, silly people.
They are silly people down there.
They're great. They're the best people, man.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, y'all, thank you. I don't know the cadence of the show, but I appreciate y'all allowing me to run my mouth. Balcones doesn't. Someone at Balcones doesn't, but I appreciate it. It's been really fun.
We let you have the free range of whatever you want. And you were concerned about swearing. You didn't even swear. We've had people break it within inside of 37 seconds.
Oh no way!
But we warned someone there is a 5-minute rule with YouTubers.
Yeah.
If you get
and it wasn't just one word then either. It was George Carlin's 7 words you can't say immediately.
Oh my goodness! It was Robert Licorice or something. It was Robert. It was Robert. He got into the wine.
Filthy
coolers.
Little ginger. Yeah,
man. Yeah. I bet it was Robert.
Robert and his potty mouth.
Yeah, that's right.
Potty
mouth, Robert.
Yeah. One too many iron root hubris daiquiris or whatever.
Yep.
You got his comeuppance from Mike.
Yeah. He's got something else coming to him pretty soon, by the way.
Uh-oh.
I like to send him special things. We'll tell you about it after the show.
After show, yeah.
I can't tell. Is that a gift or a threat? My goodness.
Both?
It was both. Yes.
Okay.
Marshall liked it. Everybody did. So yeah.
Right.
That was good. So I did one of our traditions that we do, and I'm starting on it because I have brimstone port, but I'm actually going to wait. But we tend to make I don't want to say dump glass, but we make a blend of everything we've had. And I've been nosing my blend, which is Lineage, 2 years of Mirador, Grand Cru, and Brimstone. And damn.
Oh yeah.
I was afraid of what Brimstone would do, but I think maybe the 2 years of Mirador might have helped. But just on the nose, it's faintly there. But I'm really looking forward to this before I ruin my breakfast with Brimstone.
Yeah, I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna not do all of my Mirador though.
Okay. I'm bringing one.
Yeah, you're talking Bloody Marys. I don't know why I've never thought of this. I need to do a Bloody Mary with Brimstone at some point. Because I've gotten turned on
lineage.
I've gotten turned on to
Nice.
like bourbon Bloody Marys here in Kentucky, and so.
So with lineage, since you brought it up, was that you guys trying to be a little bit lighter and friendlier?
Yeah. I mean, in a way, that's really like lineage was. It was like 2 or 3-fold. First, we didn't really find there to be like a satisfactory like gate. We kind of just were looking at the market and doing some kind of like market introspection and recognizing like there's no like gateway drug in American single malt. For every other style of spirit, there's something that you can start at for, you know, a really affordable, you know, there's a good value product on the shelf or whiskey on the shelf that you can get into any other category or classification into and designation into. But yeah, for American single malt, there just wasn't. You had to spend, you know, $60 pretty much to get into it, you know. And so, yeah, with lineage was our response to that and kind of recognizing that the category needed that kind of gateway to get people into it. And then also it was that we really, you know, we're going in cycles, and kind of the curse of being a distiller is, you know, 4 years ago, you laid down a ton of Froke or you laid down something really burly and big, and then you might not actually be super jazzed about that profile by the time it actually comes around to turn it into whiskey. Right. And we definitely have found our profile and our style and our proclivity kind of towards various whiskeys to be a little lighter and a little more approachable. You know, we're tired of cast strength in a way. We're tired of big burly virgin oak profiles because we've been doing it so long. And at the end of the day, you know, Jared's drinking a Pilsner. I'm drinking a Paquette or like a sparkling bubbly white, a Cava. And, you know, most of our staff is drinking beer or drinking wine. But in the summers, if we're drinking whiskey, we're drinking highballs, you know, and we're crushing on some highballs and we're crushing on some bright, light, spritzy, you know, effervescent carbonated cocktails. And yeah, lineage was kind of just in response to that. It was like, we're kind of, you know, we did Froke, we did all the big stuff. We did Hechiceros, we did Brujeria, we have Texas One Single Malt. That's a oaky, you know, really big, burly, robust monster. Now it's time for something that's just kind of what we want to drink. And yeah, you know, full disclosure, of our stuff, I drink more lineage than anything.
I think my personal take, so I got to try lineage right when it came out. I think it was had just hit the Texas market. A friend of mine was coming from Texas out to visit, and he had just picked up the lineage right as it released, brought it out. We got to try it out here, and I was floored. And quite honestly, for the price point, I don't know that there's a better whiskey on the American market, period. It's to me, it's that good, it's that remarkable, and where I typically see it priced at most stores, it's just, good Lord, people, if you haven't jumped on lineage, you need to jump on that one out of anything.
Yeah, that was intentional. I mean, they were when we were developing it, there were conversations internally around, well, is this $39.99 or is this $49.99? And it was consensus. This is a $49.99 whiskey, like no question. It should be this much. But like what we wanted to do in market and in the community is that we want people to go, oh, American Single Malt, never heard of that, but this one's $37 a total wine. Or this one's $41. Yeah. And so I'm going to try it, you know, and that's going to lead me into the category. And now, you know, I mean, I think we were kind of co-developing them. I don't think like Lineage hit the market first and then Blue Peak from Stranahan's came after. But now there's two very widely available, you know, $37 to $42 American single malts. Right. And yeah, anyways, I think it's a good direction for the category to go into, and I'm super excited to see, you know, kind of the legs that Lineage will have.
I'm happy to see you guys looking that in depth at it, because there's, let's say Glenmorangie, something that hits like in that same ballpark price range for what it is. That's a good introductory, bring people in, get you excited about it. I think yours has a little bit more depth than that. But I think, and I don't want to rat people out, but I know at Woodman's it was only like $30. So they have some weird, sketchy pricing that always errs in my favor. So I'm never going to complain.
That's great. Yeah, but anyways, I know that again, it's another long-winded answer, but yeah, I mean, lineage. I'm super excited about it, and I hope more people are. I don't think we're always the best champions of putting our best forward. Sometimes we do. That's one of the few downsides about Balcones is that we're doing so much. Sometimes we have a hard time like really getting behind something. But I know that lineage is doing really well, and we're really excited to see kind of what it's going to do and for American single malt, and we're hoping that people get into drinking it, and not just they get in and they buy lineage and they stick with lineage. The idea is to graduate them into other releases. Sure. They buy a lineage and then they go, okay, cool. I'm gonna, I like that. Like this Westland bottle is $59.99. I'm gonna try that, or I'm gonna try Colkegan, or I'm gonna try whatever, or they graduate to something in our portfolio. They go to Texas One Single Malt and then a special release or a single barrel. And we can just drive it all forward and kind of make it work for everyone is the idea.
You hit that one out of the park. I mean, honestly, about everything you guys have ever made, you've hit out of the park as far as what I've tried. But that one in particular, I think just stellar. And for the price point and what you're trying to do with that, man.
And we don't want to keep you all night or anything, but what are some things that people should look out on the future, since you've said Froke's not happening anymore?
Yeah. Or
I just needed to bring up a chat for a second. Just a second. But pay attention. These other things are coming up. You have other cool releases coming out this year for people to pay attention to.
Yeah. We'll have some new ones out this year. We will have a variation of Mirador. So not Mirador. But we did release Mirador again this year. It's just the blend that everyone's kind of come to know for years. 100% Golden Promise, 100% used Kentucky bourbon. And the idea is to showcase grain and fermentation character and fruit instead of oak. And then we're going to do variation on that, and we're also doing something that's coming out. We do a little bit of rum, we really like rum, and we're kind of we're not going to do our normal Texas rum this year, which is the big burly, big oak profile that we've done every year, the purple label. Right. We're going to do a refill rum, and that was matured in peat casks, our own peat, Balcones peated malt casks. Yep. And those are two that are going to kind of be cool and that we're pretty excited about. And then another big one that's coming in May that I'm excited about and has kind of been teased a little bit is Big Baby. Big Baby. And that's our first bottle and bond release. And it's going to be, it's a 5-year corn whiskey that was whole maturation in tequila cask. And it's good. It's a big boy. It's a big baby for sure. So it's a little bit of my it's a little bit of my brainchild. And so there's a little whole maturation tequila. There's a little double and triple finish in tequila. I really was chasing like citrus, like lime zest and lime. Right. And so it's like. It was kind of a little bit of a game I was playing with myself and with the warehouse, and was like, can I make a corn whiskey taste like a reposado? Cool. Crushed it.
Sorry. I gotta bring up
sign me up.
Yeah,
man.
No kidding.
Only do we have to put our mules in to be paying attention for this release now?
Right. This one's gonna drop in May, and we're doing a new thing this year too, where every release, any release that we do, any special release that we do will be available in our front of house, and it'll be available through an online retailer. And then some of them will be available in distribution in Texas. But honestly, most of them are going to be available distribution in outer markets and in Texas and in on our online retailers and in our front of house. And I'm just going to pull it up here so I can see it. And Big Baby will be distributed in Texas and outer markets and through e-commerce and through our distillery location, our front of house. Okay. So you'll be able to find it.
Good.
Yeah. I'm just gonna say that.
That was one thing. Is so well, actually a year ago, I was down there and they had the tent outside, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna get something, unique Balcones while I'm here, and it's outside. And I was talking to the person that was working there, and I just said something about casually, it's like, hey, you don't keep anything out here that you don't have inside. Well, no, we do have some different stuff inside that you can't get out here. Like, what do you mean you can't get it? It's like, what sort of weird fence is there between here and there? It's like, okay, tell me, so I need to know if I have to go inside, because at then they were only letting a couple people in there. And it's like, all right, do I really want to do this? And anyway,
sure. Oh, yeah, that's how we were staying afloat. We were like, no, you got to pay to go inside. It's $10 to use the bathroom and to buy the special release.
I like that.
Yeah, no, we have one of the guy who does our like director of retail operations. He used to work for Jester King, and so I think they have a little bit of that model where it's like, oh yeah, you get these beers over there, and then you get some other beers over there and wine, and then over there you get some other things. So we're kind of like spreading things out a little bit, so they don't have to take everything outside to the tent. I think is kind of the idea. So, but kind of makes sense. Yeah, I feel bad. Y'all asked me. I'm always spoiled in these shows because everyone just asks me questions, and I haven't learned anything more than about y'all. I'd like to. I feel bad. we had a great time talking in the pre-show, and I'd love to know more. I'm like looking behind at Mike's shelf and trying to see what I recognize back there. Jack Daniel's single barrel. That's some good stuff. Yeah,
single barrel rye, that's good. I made room so I could put all the Balcones. Well, not all the Balcones, but most of it's in the front.
Yeah, I see those malts there. That's great.
There's two I haven't opened that I'm waiting to open, but
how did
Patrick has a gimp in a closet?
Yeah, exactly. Spencer, Mav. Yeah, who are you three again? Yeah,
right.
I kind of nobody. I feel like I showed my hand. Talisker 57 North was like the first malt that I fell in love with. But what about y'all? Like, how did y'all get into whiskey? What's the story?
The one for me that kind of changed things was probably Four Roses single barrel. Between hanging out with friends and going to shows, you don't get many choices. You get Dewar's, you get Jack, you get you get four choices. And it was always Jack at that point. And before we started going out, obviously I was younger at that point, I picked up a bottle of special occasion. We had that. It was like, oh, fuck, this is way the hell better. We've been doing this wrong, So, we started, picking up a bottle or two for, it was like, okay, we'll have this, and then we'll switch over to Jack. It's a special occasion. We'll kind of do that. And then it leaned into it. And then I started expanding with all the multitude of different spirits out there, and it really Four Roses single barrel is the one that clicked the trip for me. So
that's great.
I was with a friend of mine going through Tennessee, and we decided to do a random tour of the Jack Daniel's distillery, and that sparked my interest. Came home, decided I'm getting into whiskey, bought a bottle of Glenmorangie 10-year, and liked it. And decided to jump into Lafroig 15 year after that, and it was just down the rabbit hole from there. So
cool.
And I drank a lot of craft beer, but I had a doctor's visit when my son was about to be born, and he's like, "You need to cut out bread, and beer is a bottle of bread. So you got to pick something else." I thought, well, I don't know, maybe I'll start drinking more whiskey. It was either wine or whiskey. It's like, well, if you open a bottle of wine, you got to finish it. You don't have to do that whiskey.
Right.
So I just started exploring more whiskey, and cool. So it's been a while, and I haven't turned back. No plan on either.
Right.
Good. Cool.
So I was trying to read the chat for 2 seconds. No, I don't know. There's been a couple other like key points that switched things, but that was the one that really did it.
Do y'all aside from whiskey, are there any other spirits like categories that y'all are dabbling or kind of enamored in? I mean, maybe not on the show, but just like privately. Like
absinthe.
when the cameras are off, you know.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So for me, it's just about everything but vodka. So
Okay.
absinthe
Yeah.
has become a real passion in the last year or
Oh,
two. Gin, rum, Armagnac, cognac, mezcal, tequila,
Yeah.
just you name it.
Sure.
I have
And
an interest in it.
Malort.
Malort.
Thanks,
Yeah.
bourbon. That's awesome.
We did have a show with that on it. That's true. No, but I think
Yeah.
surprising for all of us is that we ended up finding gins that we liked. And before
really?
I was like, I always got handed the shit that my mom got that tasted like pine sol that she was trying. I got a Tom Collins. I don't want to finish it. Here you. I'm like, did you get pine sol in a glass?
Right.
Like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
And so that I was afraid of it for how many, and then we ended up running into Death's Door Gin and 2 or 3 other ones we've had since then. I'm like, I guess I'm a convert. I was really sketchy for like 20 years.
Yeah.
That episode opened the door for gin to me, and that probably was my go-to drink and cocktail all of last year, pretty much. I mean, as much as I enjoyed exploring whiskey, it was typically come home from work and all right, what kind of new gin and tonic can I make tonight?
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So, and just exploring different gins. So,
yeah, same here too. Yeah, because gin was just always just a hard no. And really, it's not that I don't go after vodka, but I've found a couple vodkas that I do like.
Yeah.
That's like, okay, I can sip on this or use it in something instead of it just being, this really boring thing with a weird taste. And but mezcal, that's one thing I started getting into and realizing I really like it.
If I am out and I see a mezcal cocktail that chances are like 99% good, that's probably what I'm ordering.
Yeah, no, me too. I hear that. Yeah, a lot of mezcal, a lot of tequila, rum, Foursquare rum and some nicer rums when I can spring for it. But gin, yeah, that's a challenging one. I had like my first like super drunk experience. This is way after the dry private Christian college. Was like I got into a gin and tonic drinking contest with a bunch of like British people in my oil company, and like I honestly still like a gin and tonic. It's been 12 years, and still a gin and tonic will kind of make me feel a little green. Just like the memory of it.
That's like Mike mentioning Malort with McRib just a minute ago. I literally felt my stomach flip just now. We did an episode with Alan Bishop where we did we called it Malort McRib challenge.
Yeah.
And we all tried to eat a McRib and drink Malort. And Alan lasted all of about 10 minutes where he walked off screen to blow chunks. And the rest of us were paying for it the rest of the night. It was awful.
The next day.
Yeah. And now even just the mention of a McRib just makes me hurt.
Poor Alan, y'all went super easy on me. Holy shit, that's rough.
But he brought it on himself. He's the one that called that out.
Okay. Oh, that was his idea. Oh,
we called the bluff. And
he threw a comment out there, and we're like, sounds like a show. So that's what we did.
Dang.
Yeah. I don't advise anyone to do that. It was
no,
not okay.
No, don't do that.
Malort's fine. It's the McRib.
Right.
The McRib's the problem.
What is y'all's connect? Yeah, I have a question for you. This is fun. Sure. I can be YouTube.
We can reverse this shit. Right. That's fine. I'm just gonna start sipping now.
So like I feel bad because I feel like I'm asking this because I have a good answer, but I also feel like people who drink enough kind of explore this territory. What's your favorite like spirit or like whiskey dessert combo? Like what's your guilty pleasure? Everyone has, I drink gin and tonics, and I really like whiskey. We have a whiskey YouTube channel, but like when the cameras are off, when you're just like, what's your kind of like guilty pleasure whiskey combination or whiskey?
Guilty combination, just because you went like kind of sweets. Rua port finished with a little chocolate, milk chocolate. I'm not dark chocolate person. I know people
really,
but I'm milk chocolate. Just the way it is. But yeah, the port was so, and that's a port bomb, so it's not like light in the background. That is practically shakes you a little bit. But I like getting slapped around. Obviously, I like brimstone. I like other things. I don't mind getting slapped every now and then.
Yeah. I have no guilt over these, but they're either the actual Girl Scout Caramel Delights or whatever they call them regionally somewhere else. Those with smoky Scotch or a high proof bourbon are fantastic.
Oh yeah.
And there's no guilt over those, but this one, it sounds white trash, but I don't care. Ardbeg and the Aldi version of Fruity Pebbles.
What the fuck? Wait, Fruity Pebbles with milk, like all these Fruity Pebbles with milk. No milk.
Wait. Did you Betty White this and just
it started off. It was one time. It was late at night, and I was like, I'll have a little nightcap before I go, and I'm like, I'm kind of hungry, and so after having the Ardbeg, I took a little handful of those, and I was like, oh shit. So then I sat there having handfuls and drinking Ardbeg, and it was pretty good.
Hours. All right. Sure. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Okay, Ben. What's yours?
If I'm going like dessert, guilty pleasure kind of thing, it's usually there's two things, but there's one specifically. But I love give me a peated scotch and some dark chocolate, or a Baker's and a Snickers bar.
Ooh.
There's a peanut caramel chocolate note in that Baker's that just plays right along with the Snickers bar, and it's just magic. Yeah,
that's a good one. Yeah, that's that's a Halloween season one right there. You raid your kids,
exactly.
And
even
those
better.
Those are guilty pleasures though. That's like in public. You just
yeah.
No, even better is to get a bag of Snickers bites and throw them in the freezer, and then you just start pulling them out, frozen, pop them in the mouth, and
those shitty little tiny things.
Yep,
those are so useless. I hate them.
No, they're not.
Because you can devour the whole fucking bag and in one sitting.
I like the.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, man.
No, I've seen pecan pralines, Costco pecan, Kirkland pecan pralines, I guess is what those are. Sorry for interrupting.
No, that's probably what Kevin's having right now.
Probably.
I'm guessing that.
Okay, so I'll throw mine in. I'll do my like in the light one, and then I'll do like my behind closed doors guilty pleasure one. Not even really guilty pleasure. I just feel embarrassed based on what I talked about earlier. But yeah, I am in the habit, and during COVID, like my coping mechanism was like Ben & Jerry's Tonight Dough with, and this isn't even really whiskey. I would do or spirits. Sometimes I was doing Lineage, and then my wife got me onto doing rum, and we were doing like Foursquare and our Balcones Texas rum on the Tonight Dough, right? And like a healthy pour. And then I finally landed on it, and now I almost exclusively do this. I do Lestau's like cream sherry.
Okay.
So I do like I'll do a sherry, I'll do Amontillado or PX or Oloroso, some kind of oxidatively aged sherry on my ice cream. So yeah, that's the one that I do all the time. Like now I can't even eat chocolate ice cream without putting like sherry or rum on it. Like it doesn't taste right. We were at a friend's house, and they pulled out their favorite ice cream, and they're like, oh, like our neighbors. And they're like, oh, like this is our favorite ice cream. We got it from California. I don't even know how they got it, but they found it somewhere. And they poured us each like a little bit. And I went into their liquor cabinet and I got some Jamaican high proof rum and poured it on there. They're like, what are you doing? But no, the guilty pleasure one is the first time I had Brimstone, I had it. And the first time I ever had a Balcones product, whiskey, and it was Brimstone. And it was like Christmas of 2014. And I had it with William Sonoma's peppermint bark and honey baked ham.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah, and it was actually really, it was phenomenal. Yeah, peppermint bark and honey baked ham and Brimstone. It was awesome.
Interesting. Okay.
It's amazing. But yeah, those are. I mean, it's not really guilty pleasure. I just feel They
honey
feel silly
baked,
loving on Brimstone and consuming Brimstone in that way. When
I'm feeling like he mentioned honey baked ham, and I think Gabe's gonna get a sample of something in a couple weeks. What Ben sending me.
Oh no.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
Oh,
gotcha.
Highwire did a release where they smoked their grains in Benton's Hams smokehouse with the
Oh,
fat and
wow.
everything around it. And I know that we have a bottle somewhere about.
You got one.
getting-
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
one
So
coming.
Highwire does the Jimmy Red Corn bourbon. And so they took the corn and they hung it in the smokehouse with the hams and then distilled it and they released it as a new make. I got to go down for the release party last year and they had Benton's come down and do this whole breakfast bar with their bacon and country ham and biscuits and all this. And then they were making margaritas and Bloody Marys and cocktails and stuff with the new make. And it was absolutely phenomenal. But they've also got some in barrels that they're aging that they're going to release at some point. But it probably makes the best Bloody Mary that I've ever had anywhere.
Huh. Yummy. Yeah, smoky
But
and
even
fatty.
on its own, yeah, it's almost mezcal like. Even on its own. So
Hey, you're in Kentucky,
Right.
Ben. What's the deal? I have a faint memory of this. MV Rollins like Black Dog.
dark. Well, I don't know about
Dark
the Black
Fire.
Dog. Dark Fired is.
Oh,
one I
Dark
know in
Fire,
particular.
okay.
Yeah.
What's the story there? Because in my mind it was like somehow there's tobacco in the process, and like maybe they smoke their corn with tobacco. I can't remember what it is. What is the deal with it? Do you know what the story is with Dark Fire? Sorry,
I just remember
let
they
me-
smoked like 30% of it with. They smoked a percentage of it, but I don't remember with what. If that was with.
Right. I don't know if it's hickory. Kevin is in the chat. Bourbon Turntable. I'm sure he can answer that. We got a bottle of it sitting right over here. I'll go grab it and see what it.
Oh, cool.
See what it says on there. Just a second.
Dark Fired.
Hell, he has an assistant there. Why is he making himself do it?
An assistant. I dare you to
Chrissy,
say
get
that
on
to her face.
Okay, yeah, it's smoked corn, but it's smoked in a tobacco barn.
Tobacco barn. Okay, I didn't know if it was with the leaves. I didn't want to jump on that.
Yeah. I mean, I was kind of excited. I mean, they're pretty cool.
It is. I had my friend Jeffrey Patron sent me a sample a couple of years ago, and it was one of the ones before I had too much anything that was smoky, like American style.
Cool.
And I was like, that's American smoke. Or, you
Yeah,
know,
right.
you have Coquille,
Right.
you have some other stuff as you go, and you hit it, and you're like,
Right.
okay, this is our version of smoke compared to Scotland's version of it. It's interesting. Go ahead.
I was gonna say there's Jason Bronner here that does Buzzard's Roost. They're working on I think was it tobacco smoke cured barrel or something like that they're finishing some MGP in. That's supposed to be
Pretty good.
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, all the stuff he's done, the special barrel finishing that he's done has been absolutely fantastic. But
That's awesome.
Yeah, they have.
yeah, I think it's like a Kentucky tobacco smoked barrel
Yeah.
that they're putting the bourbon into. So
Yeah,
Yeah, no
and
more-
Emily's-
no-
no more virgin ice cream.
Virgin ice cream. No. Yeah, I feel I honestly feel crazy. Like I have to have ice cream with sherry, but yeah.
No,
Yeah,
I
I'm
get
like
that.
I starting to feel like a crazy person where I'm just like, why aren't there more flavors with why doesn't Ben and Jerry's have a sherry, like a chocolate sherry one? Like, what's wrong with them? This is the only way I want to consume this.
Okay, sorry, you just
Now I'm
totally
gonna-
gave me
now I'm
way
gonna have
too
to go-
big of an idea. Like,
Yeah, now I'm gonna have
that's
to go
part of
try
me.
this week. Yeah.
Yeah, no, tonight dough and sherry, man. I'm telling you.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I have any sherry left. I'm like, I know I got 3 Vermouths. What do I have on that stand upstairs? Damn it!
Just put out 6 cups of ice cream and just try 6 different spirits.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, if I put out that many cups of ice cream, my son will somewhere take one of them. So they're not good.
He's going to sleep great.
He'll
It just
still play well
counteracts
at night.
counteracts the sugar
That's right.
until about 2:00 in the morning. Then he's gonna wake up with a serious
Yeah.
sugar buzz.
Yeah. Dad.
Oh yeah, John, Dutch chocolate ice cream and lineage, dude.
Oh,
Go
Yeah.
for it. Go for it. I'm telling you.
yeah. I feel compelled to try it. I feel compelled to tell you to try it. Get on it, man.
Yeah.
I think if somebody had some French vanilla ice cream and they flambéed some bananas with Lineage and put that over top with some granola, that would just be drop some chocolate chips on there.
Some Cocoa Pebbles.
Hey, why not?
Do like a cereal bar where you got all this just really nice flambe, everything else, and then just the little cereal box snack packs for everyone to just try out different things.
Yeah.
I can get behind that.
Yeah, man, that's the next advent calendar. It's whiskey and cereal. behind door number 7 is a frosted mini wheat and Macallan.
We might have a show idea here, guys. Is whiskey and cereal pairings?
Yeah, that would be great. At the same time, there'd be a point when we put it out that people are like, you're advertising to alcoholics. So like,
right?
Morning experiences. Whatever you want to call it.
I'm thinking absinthe and Cocoa Puffs.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's part of this. Yeah, part of this complete breakfast.
Right. It's a little chocolate.
Start your day off right.
Dad seems to be happy when he's sending everyone off to school today.
Right.
Just figure out what pairs with Cheerios because they're healthy. They're good for your heart.
Right. Yeah. They're high in fiber, and it's non-chill filtered, and so it's great.
Yeah, figure out which whiskey pairs with high flax cereal.
Oh no, that's now. No.
Why don't you just dip into the mash and see how things work out for you?
Yeah,
just like with Malort, it's not the taste, it's the aftertaste. The flax cereal. Taste is fine. It's what happens afterwards. That's the problem.
Yeah. No, that just got dark though. I'm thinking like, what goes with grape nuts? Gross.
I mean, there might be a good pairing for that though.
No, you're not. There's not.
All right. I'm trying to keep myself open.
I thought you were gonna be like challenge accepted. I want to hear how this goes.
I don't know the last time I even saw grape nuts at the grocery store. They still have them. I see all the cashy stuff and other ones, but
they just they repurpose the interior to make cardboard boxes.
Right.
It's a paper shortage, so they just
throw some extra nuts in there.
Yeah, they just recycled
rice cakes. That's what I thought of when he said recycling stuff like that. I was like, well, here's packaging.
Yeah,
it's not edible.
Right.
All right. Well, hey. Gabe, sorry. I was going to say. Gabe.
No, I was going to say I really appreciate y'all's time and letting me do a half-hour tangent on.
We love
it.
Yeah.
We tangented. That's on us. But thank you so much for coming on the show, Gabe.
Sure. Yeah.
We really appreciate you coming on and talking about some of the stuff behind the scenes at Balcones. Would love to have you on again at any point if you have anything coming on again. And we may be able to fit some of the things you got into some tastings we got coming up because you have some really unique profiles that you guys are putting out.
Yeah.
Sure.
And everything's at a high quality. Sorry, we're not kissing your ass, but we say things that are true. But like I said, you have a huge base lineup that even I have here in a few stores. All of them are good, and then your extra lineup with special editions and anniversary things. It's out of the park, man. You guys are doing a fantastic job, and you're. I think where if people ask us where do a lot of craft distillers want to end up, I think it's in a position where you guys are at the moment.
Cool. Thank you so much.
It's in a lot of different areas. It's headed all in the right direction. I think people would be lucky to have a portfolio like you guys have.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, AJ. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Hey.
Good to see you, buddy.
Yeah. Hey, we were going to lean on you to pick up some booze for us in May.
Yeah.
And April and March.
Yeah, y'all just let us know. I mean, we've got a lot of stuff hitting like May and June, a lot of special releases, kind of early summer, late spring. So yeah, if y'all want to do squeeze us in again when we've dropped Big Baby and our Mirador variation and the rum finish and ex-peat cast, you just let us know,
Oh,
and we
yeah.
could do a little special release showcase. We're up for it.
I
Okay.
definitely do that.
Cool.
That'd be awesome.
That would be fantastic. Thank you, everyone in the chat, for stopping out this evening. And remember, it's not the size of the den that matters; it's the love of whiskey. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Cheers.